What if the reason your life feels stuck isn't because you're not trying hard enough, but because you're trying too hard? Think about it. The more you chase, the more things seem to slip away. The more you control, the more anxious you feel. It's exhausting, and deep down, you know something isn't working. But here's the twist. What if the real power isn't in holding on, but in letting go? In this video, you'll discover how to release that constant pressure, relax your mind, and finally trust that things are unfolding in your favor even when it doesn't look like it. Because once you understand this shift, everything changes. Letting go isn't giving up, it's gaining control in a way most people never understand. At first, it feels like the opposite. It feels like you're losing your grip, like you're surrendering, like you're stepping back when you should be pushing forward. But look closer. When you try to control everything, every outcome, every person, every situation, you actually lose control of the only thing that truly matters: yourself. Your thoughts become chaotic. Your emotions swing between hope and frustration. You overthink every move. You replay conversations. You try to predict outcomes that haven't even happened yet. And in that constant effort to control life, you end up controlled by anxiety, stress, and fear. Letting go breaks that cycle. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean you stop working toward your goals. It means you release the tight grip on things that were never in your control to begin with. You stop trying to force people to act a certain way. You stop needing immediate results. You stop attaching your peace to outcomes you can't guarantee. And in doing that, something powerful happens. You create space. Space to think clearly. Space to act wisely. Space to breathe. Think about it this way. When your hands are clenched tightly around something, you can't pick up anything new. But when you loosen your grip, suddenly there's room for better opportunities, better ideas, better outcomes. That's what letting go does. It opens your life instead of restricting it. Control in its healthiest form is never about dominating everything around you. It's about mastering what's within you, your reactions, your focus, your energy. When you let go of the need to control external results, you redirect that energy inward. You become more aware of your choices. You respond instead of react. You move with intention instead of desperation. And that's real control. There's also a hidden confidence in letting go. It says, I trust myself enough to handle whatever comes. Instead of trying to secure every possible outcome, you trust your ability to adapt. You trust your resilience. You trust that even if things don't go as planned, you'll figure it out. That kind of mindset is unshakable because it doesn't depend on perfection. It depends on self-belief. Most people stay stuck because they confuse control with security. They think if they can just manage everything perfectly, they'll finally feel at peace. But the truth is, peace doesn't come from control. It comes from acceptance, from understanding that life will always have uncertainty, and that's okay. When you accept that, you stop fighting reality and start working with it. And here's the irony. The moment you stop forcing things is often the moment things start to flow. Conversations feel easier. Decisions become clearer. Opportunities show up in unexpected ways. Not because you gave up, but because you aligned yourself with a calmer, more focused state of mind. Letting go is not weakness. It's discipline. It takes strength to release what you can't control and focus only on what you can. It takes awareness to catch yourself when you're slipping back into overthinking and gently pull yourself out. It takes patience to trust the process instead of rushing the outcome. So no, letting go isn't losing control. It's choosing a higher form of it. It's deciding that your peace, your clarity, and your energy matter more than forcing life to go your way. And when you truly understand that, you stop chasing control and start living with it. Your resistance is creating your stress, and once you truly see this, everything starts to shift. Most people think stress comes from situations, too much work, uncertain outcomes, difficult people, unexpected problems. But look deeper. It's not the situation itself that's draining you, it's your resistance to it. It's the inner tension that says, this shouldn't be happening, or I need this to change right now. That silent fight inside your mind is what creates the pressure you feel. Think about a moment when something didn't go your way. Maybe plans changed. Maybe someone disappointed you. Maybe life threw something unexpected at you. Instantly, your mind starts pushing back. You replay it. You question it. You try to rewrite it in your head. You wish it were different. That mental resistance builds friction, and that friction turns into stress. Now imagine the opposite. The same situation happens, but instead of fighting it, you pause, you acknowledge it. You say, okay, this is what's happening right now. That doesn't mean you like it. It doesn't mean you agree with it. It simply means you stop arguing with reality. And in that moment, something surprising happens. The intensity drops. The pressure eases, because you're no longer adding extra weight to the situation. Resistance is exhausting because it keeps you stuck between what is and what you wish it was. You're not fully present, and you're not moving forward either. You're just stuck in that gap, draining your energy. And the more you resist, the bigger that gap feels. Here's the truth most people miss. Acceptance is not weakness, it's efficiency. When you accept a situation, you see it clearly. And when you see clearly, you respond better. Instead of reacting emotionally, you act intelligently. You stop wasting energy on what you can't change and start focusing on what you can influence. This doesn't mean you become passive. It doesn't mean you stop taking action or settling for less. It means your actions come from clarity, not frustration. There's a big difference. When you act from resistance, your decisions are rushed, emotional, and often ineffective. But when you act from acceptance, your decisions are calm, precise, and powerful. Another reason resistance creates stress is because it amplifies uncertainty. When you resist something, your mind starts spinning stories. What if this gets worse? What if I fail? What if this never works out? You try to control the future by overthinking it, but that only creates more anxiety. Letting go of resistance doesn't eliminate uncertainty, but it removes the panic around it. You learn to move forward without needing every answer up front. There's also a physical side to this. When you resist, your body tightens. Your breathing becomes shallow. Your muscles hold tension. You carry that stress throughout your day without even realizing it. But when you allow things to be as they are, your body relaxes. Your breath deepens. Your mind slows down. That shift alone can completely change how you experience your day. One of the most powerful habits you can build is catching resistance in real time. The moment you feel that inner tension, pause and ask yourself, am I fighting something I can't control right now? If the answer is yes, take a step back. Breathe. Loosen your grip. Remind yourself that you don't need to solve everything instantly. Because the truth is, life becomes lighter the moment you stop pushing against it. Problems don't disappear, but your relationship with them changes. You become more flexible, more resilient, more grounded. And that's where real calm comes from, not from a perfect life, but from a peaceful response to an imperfect one. So if you want less stress, don't just try to change your circumstances. Change your resistance to them. Because often, the peace you're looking for isn't on the other side of control, it's on the other side of letting go. Trust is a skill, not a feeling, and that changes everything about how you approach life. Most people sit around waiting to feel ready, to feel certain, to feel confident enough to trust that things will work out. But that feeling rarely comes first. In fact, if you rely on feelings alone, you'll stay stuck in hesitation, doubt, and overthinking. Because feelings are unstable. They change with your mood, your environment, and your past experiences. One moment you feel hopeful, the next moment you're filled with fear. If trust depends on that, it will always be inconsistent. That's why trust has to be built like a skill, something you practice, something you strengthen over time. Think about it like a muscle. The first time you try to trust in uncertainty, it feels uncomfortable. Your mind resists. It wants guarantees. It wants proof. It wants control. But the more you practice trusting without needing full certainty, the stronger that ability becomes. It starts small. You don't need to trust your entire life all at once. Just begin with the present moment. Trust that you can handle today. Trust that you can take the next step, even if you don't see the full path. When something doesn't go your way, instead of immediately assuming the worst, pause and remind yourself, maybe this is working out in a way I don't see yet. That simple shift begins to rewire how you think. What makes this difficult is your brain's natural tendency to protect you. It's wired to look for danger, to expect problems, to prepare for worst-case scenarios. That's why doubt feels automatic and trust feels like effort. But just because something feels automatic doesn't mean it's accurate. Your brain is trying to keep you safe, but in doing so, it often keeps you stuck. Building trust means gently challenging that pattern. It means choosing a different response, even when it feels unfamiliar. Instead of feeding fear with more fear, you interrupt it. You remind yourself of times things worked out before. You focus on what you can do instead of what might go wrong. And slowly, your mind starts to adapt. Another important part of trust is self-trust. It's not just about believing that life will work out, it's about believing that you will be okay no matter what happens. That you'll find a way, that you'll learn, adjust, and grow. When you have that kind of trust in yourself, uncertainty becomes less threatening. You stop needing perfect conditions because you know you can handle imperfect ones. Trust also grows through action, not just thought. Every time you take a step forward despite fear, you're proving to yourself that you don't need complete certainty to move. Every time you let go of overthinking and make a decision, you reinforce that ability. Over time, those small actions build a solid foundation of confidence, not the loud, flashy kind, but the quiet, steady kind that keeps you grounded. And here's the interesting part. Once you start practicing trust, you begin to notice changes. You feel lighter. You stop overanalyzing every detail. You become more present. Opportunities seem easier to recognize because your mind isn't clouded by constant doubt. It's not that life suddenly becomes perfect. It's that you're no longer fighting it at every step. There will still be moments where trust feels hard, moments where fear comes back, where uncertainty feels overwhelming. That's normal. Building a skill doesn't mean you never struggle, it means you know how to return to balance when you do. You don't spiral as deeply, and you recover more quickly. So stop waiting to feel ready to trust. That feeling comes after you start practicing, not before. Trust is built in small, consistent moments when you choose to move forward, when you choose to believe, when you choose to let go of needing all the answers. Because in the end, trust isn't about knowing how everything will unfold. It's about knowing that whatever happens, you won't lose yourself in the process. And that's a skill worth building every single day. You're not meant to have all the answers, and the sooner you accept that, the lighter your life becomes. Most of the stress you feel doesn't come from not knowing, it comes from believing you should know. You tell yourself you need clarity before you move, certainty before you decide, guarantees before you commit. So you wait, you overthink, you analyze every possible outcome, trying to map out a perfect path before taking a single step. And in that process, you don't gain clarity, you create confusion. Because life was never designed to be fully predictable. It unfolds in pieces, not in complete pictures. You see the next step, not the entire staircase. And that's not a flaw, it's how growth works. If you had every answer up front, there would be no discovery, no learning, no expansion. Everything meaningful in your life came with some level of uncertainty. Every decision that shaped you required you to move without knowing exactly how it would turn out. But your mind resists that. It craves control. It wants to eliminate risk. It tells you that if you can just figure everything out in advance, you'll avoid mistakes, avoid failure, avoid discomfort. But that's an illusion. No amount of thinking can fully prepare you for something you haven't experienced yet. In fact, the more you try to figure everything out, the more overwhelmed you become. You get stuck in loops of what if and maybe, constantly shifting between options, never fully committing to any of them. Letting go of needing all the answers doesn't mean you stop thinking or planning. It means you stop demanding certainty before action. It means you accept that some clarity only comes after you move, not before. You start trusting that the path will reveal itself as you walk it. Think about it this way. When you're driving at night, your headlights don't show you the entire road, they show you just enough to keep going. And yet, you still reach your destination. Life works the same way. You don't need to see everything ahead. You just need to see enough to take the next step. There's also a deeper kind of confidence that comes from accepting uncertainty. It shifts your focus from "I need to know everything" to "I'll handle whatever comes." That's a completely different mindset. One is rooted in fear, the other in self-trust. When you stop needing all the answers, you stop fearing the unknown so much, You become more flexible, more open, more willing to explore. And here's the paradox: when you release the pressure to have all the answers, your mind actually becomes clearer. You make decisions faster. You feel less overwhelmed, because you're no longer carrying the impossible burden of figuring out your entire life at once. You're just focusing on what matters now. Another powerful shift happens in how you view mistakes. When you believe you need all the answers, mistakes feel like failure. But when you accept uncertainty, mistakes become feedback. They're part of the process, not something to avoid at all costs. You learn, adjust, and move forward. That's how real progress happens. This doesn't mean you'll never feel unsure again. You will. But instead of freezing, you move anyway. Instead of waiting for perfect clarity, you act with partial clarity. And that's enough. Because action creates clarity far more effectively than thinking ever will. So if you feel stuck right now, ask yourself, are you waiting for answers that were never meant to come all at once? Are you holding yourself back because you think you need to be certain before you begin? Maybe the real shift isn't finding all the answers. Maybe it's realizing you don't need them. Because life isn't something you solve, it's something you experience. And the moment you accept that, you stop trying to control every detail and start moving forward with confidence, even in the unknown. Relaxation is a strategy, not a weakness. And misunderstanding this is one of the biggest reasons people burn out, overthink, and struggle to make clear decisions. Most people have been taught that success comes from constant effort, constant pressure, and constant action. So when they slow down, when they rest, when they allow themselves to breathe, they feel guilty. They feel like they are falling behind. But that belief is incomplete. Because non-stop effort without recovery doesn't create progress, it creates exhaustion. Think about your mind like a system. When it is overloaded, it doesn't perform better, it performs worse. Your thoughts become scattered. Your focus weakens. Your emotional reactions become stronger than your logic. In that state, even simple decisions feel heavy. You start reacting instead of responding. And the harder you push in that state, the more resistance you create internally. Relaxation is what resets that system. It's not doing nothing, it's restoring clarity. When your mind is calm, you don't just feel better, you think better. You see patterns you couldn't see before. You notice solutions that were hidden under stress. You stop overreacting and start understanding. That's why some of your best ideas don't come when you're forcing them. They come when you're relaxed, often when you're not even trying. This is where the misunderstanding happens. People assume relaxation means laziness. But laziness is avoidance. Relaxation is awareness. Laziness is disconnecting from responsibility. Relaxation is reconnecting with clarity. There is a massive difference between the two. One drains your potential, the other restores it. If you look at high performers in any field, athletes, entrepreneurs, creators, you'll notice something interesting. They don't operate in constant tension. They have cycles. Intense focus, followed by recovery. Deep work, followed by rest. They understand that performance is not just about effort, it's about balance. Because without recovery, even the strongest system breaks down. Relaxation also plays a huge role in decision making. When you are stressed, your brain narrows its focus to survival mode. It looks for immediate solutions, not the best solutions. That's why people often make rush choices when they are anxious and later regret them. But when you are relaxed, your mind opens up. You consider more options. You think long term instead of short term. You become strategic instead of reactive. There's also an emotional layer to this. When you are constantly tense, life feels heavier than it actually is. Small problems feel big, minor setbacks feel overwhelming. But when you allow yourself to relax, the same problems feel more manageable. Not because they changed, but because your perspective changed. Relaxation is also a form of trust. It says, I don't need to force everything right now. I can allow things to unfold. That mindset removes unnecessary pressure from your system. And without that pressure, you move more smoothly through life. You stop resisting every moment and start flowing with it. One of the most powerful things you can practice is intentional slowing down. Not quitting, not escaping, just pausing enough to reset your mind. Take a breath before reacting. Step back before deciding. Give yourself space before